There are battles that require no gunfire, yet every day you feel like the one losing. These are invisible wars, where every word, every glance, every chilling silence is turned into a weapon. If you've ever felt the need to apologize for your own emotions, ever doubted whether what you saw was truly real, pause for a moment, because you might be trapped in the psychological game of a narcissist. But today, I'm going to give you a single sentence, just a few words, powerful enough to bring down that entire intricate system of control. A sentence that, when spoken from a place of awareness, doesn't need to be shouted, doesn't need to spark a fight, but still leaves them completely unsettled. Before I reveal that sentence, I want to take you on a journey to understand why it works so profoundly, because what terrifies them the most isn't your anger, it's your cold, quiet awareness. It's when you look straight at them and see clearly what they've tried so hard to hide. In this video, I will walk you through the psychological mechanisms a narcissist uses to manipulate emotions and how you can dismantle each link in that chain, not through rage, but through an unshakable calm. This isn't a lesson on how to confront or fight them. It's a guide to stepping off the chessboard, to reclaim your mind, your emotions, and your energy. Because when you stop reacting, when you remain silent at the right moment, you don't just cut off their emotional supply, you shake the very foundation they've built their existence upon. If you've ever felt trapped in a relationship where everything seems to be your fault, where no matter how hard you try, it's never enough, this video is for you. Don't look away. Watch until the end, because every minute will give you not just knowledge, but psychological weapons to reclaim justice for yourself. And if this journey resonates with you, hit subscribe, because this is where we'll continue to uncover the illusions they create and build a life where you control the game. Here's the truth. What sends a narcissist into panic isn't your anger. It's when you stop reacting. They don't fear your shouting. In fact, they crave it. Every time you lose control, they tighten their grip on your emotions. In their world, chaos is an asset. Confusion is their advantage. The more disoriented you become, the easier it is for them to rewrite the story, push you into defense, and make you feel at fault. They don't control you through physical force, but through something far more insidious: emotional and neurological manipulation. They know how to stir old wounds, poke at primal fears, the fear of abandonment, the fear of not being enough, the fear of being unloved. And once they trigger your reflexes, you're longer living in choice. You're living in survival mode. But right here, when you begin to observe instead of react, you dismantle their entire system of control. They can't read you anymore. They no longer know which button to push. Every time you hold your calm, you declare, "I'm no longer playing by the old rules," and that throws them into disarray. They'll try to provoke you, they'll push you to your limits, but when they realize you're no longer shaken, they feel the thing they fear most. You've escaped the system they once controlled. Within the silence you create, a new kind of energy emerges. Steady, grounded, no longer a puppet of emotion. When you no longer need to prove anything, no longer feel the urge to explain or apologize for your rightful feelings, you begin to reclaim true power. That is inner power. And it's something a narcissist can never touch. They don't know how to handle someone who no longer needs them, no longer reacts to them, no longer revolves their life around their presence. In the face of a narcissist's manipulations, where every word and action is designed to pull you into their orbit, there exists a singular, transformative power in one carefully chosen sentence. A declaration of your sovereignty, your boundaries, and your unyielding commitment to your own truth. This sentence, as Dr. Jordan Peterson might articulate, is not a weapon of aggression, but a shield of clarity, a statement that says, "I see you, I understand your game, and I choose not to play." It is a moment of profound strength, where you refuse to be swayed by guilt, flattery, or intimidation, and instead stand firm in the quiet dignity of your self-worth. This one sentence, whether it's "I respect your perspective, but I will protect my peace," or "Your feelings are yours to manage, not mine to fix," carries the weight of a lifetime's worth of self-discovery. It is the culmination of wrestling with your own shadows, of learning to value your inner voice above the clamor of external demands. To a narcissist who thrives on control and emotional chaos, this sentence is their kryptonite. It signals that their tactics, honed through years of manipulation, no longer hold sway. They fear it because it represents a boundary they cannot cross, a mirror they cannot distort, and a truth they cannot bend. But the true power of this sentence lies not in its effect on them, but in what it does for you. It is an act of liberation, a reclaiming of your agency from those who seek to diminish it. As Peterson often emphasizes, to live a meaningful life is to take responsibility for your own path, to carry your burden with courage, and to speak truth even when it trembles on your lips. When you deliver this sentence with calm conviction, you are not just confronting a narcissist, you are affirming your right to exist as an individual, free from the chains of their expectations. So, let this be your call to action. Craft your sentence, hone it in the fire of your resolve, and wield it with the precision of a surgeon's blade. Let it be the line in the sand that marks the beginning of a new chapter, one where you are no longer a pawn in someone else's story, but the author of your own. The narcissist may rage, retreat, or try to rewrite the narrative, but they will never forget the moment you stood tall and spoke your truth. And in that moment, you will not only make them fear you, you will set yourself free forever. Reaction is what they control, but your steady presence is something they cannot break. And that is when you begin to flip the chessboard. No need to attack. Just stand firm with all the awareness you have cultivated through your past wounds. And then, when your calmness becomes a wall they cannot penetrate, you will feel the right moment to speak a simple sentence. One that carries no anger, no force, but lands with the weight of a knockout blow. It's not a sentence meant to argue or attack, but to clearly declare, this game is over. And at that moment, everything begins to crumble. That sentence is, I see what you're doing, and it won't work anymore. A short statement, but it carries the power of awareness and recognition. It doesn't require explanation. It doesn't need their agreement, because it's not about convincing them. It's about reaffirming your boundary. When you speak those words, you're shining a light directly onto the shadow they've always tried to conceal. You're forcing them to face the truth that you've seen all the tricks, all the tactics, and you're no longer playing. What makes this sentence powerful isn't its volume, it's the energy behind it. It's the energy of someone who has seen enough of the cycle, who understands it fully, and who is strong enough to walk away. Narcissists aren't afraid of confrontation, they're afraid of being seen. Because the truth doesn't need to shout. It only needs to be recognized, and that alone is enough to shatter the illusion they've worked so hard to maintain. When you speak that sentence, you're declaring something they were never prepared to face. They've lost control. They may react with anger, with tears, even playing the victim, but at this point, you're no longer pulled in, because those reactions are just their last-ditch effort to pull you back into the game. But the chessboard has been flipped. You've stood up and walked away. That sentence doesn't require you to brace yourself. It only needs to be spoken from a grounded place within you. And when it is spoken, whether in silence or in dialogue, it becomes the final declaration. I'm no longer a part of your script. But remember, when you say those words, I see what you're doing and it won't work anymore, the game doesn't end immediately. Often that's when they begin to thrash. A narcissist, when losing control, doesn't retreat quietly. They may become more dramatic, even more intense. They'll try every tactic, playing the victim, lashing out in anger, sweet-talking, or using prolonged silence as punishment, all aimed at one thing, pulling you back into the familiar playing field. And this is where you need to hold your energy steady, because it's no longer a battle of words, it's a battle of energy frequencies. They'll try to make your heart race to make you feel anxious, guilty, or doubt yourself, but if you can see through this game, you'll understand. Their reaction says nothing about you. It only speaks to their internal fear, the fear of losing control. The best way to hold your energy? Return to your body. Instead of letting your mind get swept up in their words, focus on your breath, on the sensations in your chest and your belly. When you feel tension rising, take a deep breath, hold it for a few seconds, and exhale slowly. This isn't just a calming technique, it's how you hold onto your energy, preventing it from being sucked into the emotional storm they're trying to create. And remember, not every question needs an answer. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Sometimes silence is the strongest response. When they say, why are you so cold? Don't you care anymore? You don't need to rush to explain. Simply maintain your presence. They will feel that more powerfully than anything you could say. If they try to drag you into an argument, remember, every time you maintain your calm, you're winning another round. You're not fighting to defeat them. You're fighting to retain sovereignty over your emotions. And that sovereignty isn't something everyone can reach. When they see you're no longer participating, they'll be forced to face the void within themselves. And that is what terrifies them the most. Imagine a scenario like this. You're facing someone who once had immense influence over your emotions. Maybe they were used to melting your defenses with sweet words or sending you into panic with sharp criticisms. But this time, when you firmly say, I see what you're doing and it won't work anymore, the air freezes for a moment. They pause, their eyes scanning you, trying to gauge if you're truly serious. But then, like a reflex honed over time, they begin to retaliate, invading your emotional space. They are caught off guard because they didn't expect this kind of response. They're used to you reacting with worry, explanations, or even concessions. But now, you give them none of that. You don't argue, you don't blame, and you don't let your emotions get swept away. You simply stand firm, and that alone starts to disorient them. Seeing their sweet strategy fail, they quickly switch tactics. Their tone sharpens, laced with accusation. You've really changed. You're not the person I used to know. You're ruining everything. These words are designed to throw you into panic, to make you feel like you've done something wrong, to pressure you into proving that you're still good. But instead of falling into that trap, you pause. You allow yourself a few seconds to feel your breath, to listen to your body. Then, with remarkable calm, you respond, I agree that I've changed, and I will continue to change to protect my peace. That response isn't just a statement, it's a declaration of autonomy. You don't deny your change, nor do you try to appease them by reverting to your old self, the more easily manipulated version of you. Instead, you embrace your growth as a natural part of your journey, and you prioritize your peace over their need for control. The calm in your voice, the steadiness in your choice of words, leaves them even more unsettled. They were expecting an argument, an emotional explosion, or at least a sign that you're shaken. But what they encounter is selective silence. Response is no longer driven by the emotions they're trying to provoke. Imagine another scenario where psychological manipulation is more subtle. Perhaps they choose silence, ignoring your messages for days, only to reappear with a manipulative line. You must be really happy not needing me anymore. In the past, you might have panicked, rushing to reassure them. That's not true, I still care. You might have felt guilty, blaming yourself for the misunderstanding, doing everything you could to pull them back. But now you've learned to recognize these tactics. You don't let yourself get sucked into the guilt spiral they're crafting. Instead, you respond briefly, clearly, and assertively. I'm not interested in playing emotional games. If you want to have a serious conversation, I'm open to it. If not, I respect the space between us. This response doesn't just show confidence, it gently but firmly sets a boundary. You aren't refusing communication, but you refuse to be pulled into an emotional battlefield. You shift the responsibility back onto them. If they want a healthy dialogue, you're ready. If they only want to manipulate, you won't participate. This makes them realize that their old strategies, the guilt trips, the calculated silences, the manipulative comments, no longer work. The magic of holding boundaries doesn't lie in winning arguments or making the other person back down. Instead, it's in how you change yourself, how you learn to listen to your own emotions, how you refuse to let others define your worth, and how you choose peace over chaos. When you respond with calmness and resolve, you're not just protecting your emotional space, you're sending a powerful message that you are no longer easily manipulated, that you have grown, and that you now control your own narrative. This process isn't easy. It requires practice, self-awareness, and sometimes the courage to face difficult emotions. There may be moments when you doubt yourself, when their accusations strike at deep insecurities, but each time you choose to stand firm, each time you respond from a place of calm and self-possession, you build a stronger version of yourself. You learn to love yourself enough to say no to what harms you, and yes, to what brings you peace. Ultimately, what confuses psychological manipulators the most isn't confrontation or avoidance, it's your full presence. Presence that isn't swayed by their tactics. When you stand firm, not with anger or fear, but with clarity and confidence, you become someone they cannot control. And that truly is your greatest power.